Here we are at Trinity Anglican Cemetery. Oh, look at this. No snow for me to wander through up to my knees. Quite a difference that a few weeks has made. Not even a few weeks, a week has made in the amount of snow cover we have. And so this is a cemetery that, what I wrote down here. First grave is in 1861 and the last stone was in 1957. And so it's obviously an abandoned cemetery. Well, I shouldn't say abandoned. They're not having any more burials. What I read online is there's this church called Christ Church in Milverton that still looks after this cemetery. And I was reading it as where you can see all these stones here as they gathered them up and put them on concrete pad so they could see them. And again, we're seeing some names we recognize and some that McFarlane. That's a lot of Scottish names actually for an Anglican cemetery. That's quite interesting. This here one's a huge one right at the corner here. It's kind of neat. Thomas Fullerton, 1932. And this is another Fullerton, in memory of Charles Fullerton. That's quite a stone, isn't it? Well, today I just want to talk a bit about bad theology at funerals. Before I get to that, I'm going to share a few stories. Doesn't look like it's going to take very long to walk around this cemetery. But I had a fellow I was working with, and this is a lot of years ago now, and he was 21 at the time, and a friend, I think it was a relative, had died, and anyways, he was a little shaken up with it, and I was working with him, and he was talking it through and processing it, and then it came out he'd never been to a funeral. And so he had no idea what protocols there were, how to dress, just all that kind of thing. And, what do I say? And so anyways, we had quite a chat. It was quite a great way to have a chat and explore things. And, but this is kind of a thing with modern society, is we tend to kind of hide death a little bit. And my grandfather died in the house where he lived, and they actually had the funeral, the wake, in the house. The body was there for a few days. We don't do that now. Death is kind of hidden, and the nature of funerals has changed too. At one time the body was always present, but now we have walking through snow. But now we have a lot of cremations. Sometimes the body is not even present at the funeral. It's kind of sterilized, I guess. Maybe, I don't know if it's the right word or not. This is 1954, so let's getting close to the last burial. John Rowe, 88 years old, 3 months. He lived a good long life. His wife died a little younger. It's related to the Rose in Atwood, I'm sure. So I got distracted there. But yeah, the nature of funerals has changed, and how we have funerals too. I've never did one, but apparently people are having funerals in bars and that kind of thing. Oh, look at that. That was not planned. The name is Bar on there, and I just said bar. That wasn't planned at all. But anyways, the nature of funerals has changed. But the common problem that we sometimes have at funerals, isn't that something? You can hardly read a lot of these stones. I hope somebody got some etchings of these things before they got too bad. There's some Buchanans. Sometimes you really can't read. So, oh, I should mention where a cemetery is. This one is on the 12th of Elma, and there, that must be the very last stone there. Sorry, I didn't get the camera quite right. 1957, Susan Keene. So this is on the 12th of Elma. So if you go from Highway 23 and you head east, it's pretty much right at the end. You can kind of see a car going down the highway there. That's the edge of Elma. But right where my red car is there, across the street, there was a church there. And I remember that a few years ago. And apparently that was the Trinity, or the Anglican church. And then I understand a Mennonite congregation had it. And the last time I was here, it looked like it was a house. And obviously now it's all tore down. And I should maybe mention how I originally found this cemetery. There is a game called geocaching, and it's big, and it's probably still going on. But I did this with my boys when they were younger. And so you go on the internet and you register, and they give you coordinates. And it's kind of like a hide and seek or a treasure hunt kind of thing. And these coordinates lead you to places of interest, such as this cemetery. And within the cemetery, there would be a little hidden cache. And what you do is you take something and you leave something. And so I really don't remember what was in here. But, probably something maybe hidden in behind one of these stones. It'd be a little box. It'd be full of stickers or maybe little balls or games or stuff like that. And so you would, part of the fun was the hunting, and you'd find it, and then you'd trade something, and sometimes you get a little sticker or a prize, and the kids have fun with it, and it's a good way to spend some quality kid time with your boys. Well, my boys or kids, and a lot of adults do it too. And I haven't did that in a long time. I should look back into it. I know my online name was Naylor Acres. That was kind of what I called my farm, so that's what I had down for my little password. So I got distracted again. I seem to do that quite easily. But when we're talking about funerals, the nature of dying has changed. But the one thing that some of the theologians have noted is we've kind of gotten away from, what am I trying to say here? The celebration of Jesus as the victor over death. We tend to be kind of mopey and sad in our funerals. We don't acknowledge that, the people have gone to heaven. Well, I guess I'm not saying that quite right. We do that, but not in the same way we had in the past. Really, and I kind of agree with this, and you'll notice when I do my funerals, I have this kind of template that you use, but you celebrate the person's life, the skills and what made them uniquely them, what God created them, and you kind of celebrate that. But also a lot of it was to kind of celebrate our baptism into the church, and that, in essence, the funeral is a reverse baptism. You're baptism into life, but then you have kind of a baptism into death, because it's not an ending, it's an ongoing process. And so you have this concept of communion of saints, these people that are in heaven that have gone before us, and they're still there. And so this comes up with another kind of concept of the invisible church. And so, we have this church that we can see. And, you come to church on Sunday, you can see Christians out and about. You can see symbols such as a cemetery, as extensions of the church. But then we have this hidden church. And these are all the saints that have gone before us. People that are present in heaven. They're kind of hidden from us, but it is still part of the church. I hope I explained that well, but probably not. If you want to know more, come sit down with me and we go over it. But getting back to bad theology, so often when you kind of walking in circles now, quite often there's certain things that people say and they mean well, but when you stop and think about it, it is actually very, very bad theology. It does not present a loving God. One comment is, oh, God picked a flower from, or his rose, picked a rose from his garden to take up to heaven. Well, kind of presents a view that God is a grim reaper that reaches down and grabs people willy-nilly. You know what? There's stones on the other side of the road. Well, we'll have to go investigate that. And, the other one is God needed another angel in heaven. Well, there's a few things like that. Again, this kind of the grim reaper God is out to get certain people. But angels and humans are very, very different things in the Bible. And so again, it's maybe not a good theology. It's God's will. Well, that's kind of a theology that comes, a lot of the Mennonite religions have that kind of view that it's God's will. God does what he does, and there's nothing we can do about it. If it's your turn to die, it's your turn to die. That doesn't allow for the natural laws that God created in the world, natural rhythms of life and death. And not saying that God doesn't intervene and help us, but again, God isn't a vengeful God out to get us. Maybe you've been at a funeral and there's been a baby die. Well, some people say, well, you can have another child. Well, that's really denying their grief, their pain, and their anger. So these are 1998, so this must be, just looking by the names, must be more of a Mennonite. These look like they're very recent. 2017 Raymond Gosho. Raymond Gosho. Very interesting. It doesn't look like there's any headstones on this one. Maybe there's two side by side, I don't know. So, getting back to my 1994, that was a young person. Jesus said, I go and prepare a place for you. I will come back and take you to be with me. It's unfortunately a little bit of garbage there. That's not good. Well, let's go back. So one thing I did, this kind of concept of what do you say at funerals, and my revelation with this fellow I worked with, he was 21 years old and never been to a funeral, that I took my confirmation class. Then we went down to Brenneman's, putting a little plug in for Jim here, and Jim was really good. He took the confirmation class through the whole funeral process, from the planning and to, picking out the caskets, and he showed them a room where the caskets were, and all the different kind of things you can do to remember your loved one by, the necklaces, and apparently you can even make diamonds out of the ashes, which to me seems a little weird, but I guess some people like that. We all grieve in different ways, so I'm not passing judgment. If that's where you find comfort, go for it. I think I'm going to just stand behind the tree out of the wind. It is a little nippy out here. Anyways, so we took through the whole process at Brenneman's, and Jim wasn't too graphic, but he showed where he prepared the bodies, where he does the makeup, how do you do makeup, and make your deceased look really good. And then we talked about receiving lines and what to say and not to say, and oftentimes the the best thing to say is I'm sorry for your loss. I'm here to talk if you want. And, that person knows that you care and you're there. And sometimes some of these other things that you want to say are not so helpful. Such as God knows what he's doing. It could have been worse. Oh, he or she is better off. Don't question God. Well, here's one. I got a little list here, took off the internet. Some of them aren't really too helpful, but I know what you're experiencing. My dog died last week. Well, how is that going to soothe someone who's just lost a loved one? So, here we are at Trinity Anglican Cemetery. And my fingers are getting cold, so I think I'm going to sign off. And I hope you enjoyed this another little walk in the reel. We are nearing the end of our Lent journey. A few more weeks. And, got a few more little cemeteries around to look at. And a few more stories to share. And anyways, enjoy.